Hi, my name's Catherine Hutton and I work on the ITIS contract in North Sydney. Recently I was lucky enough to go to Kintore with Red Dust as part of Circo 25 and raising money for Red Dust. Red Dust is a charity that supports Indigenous communities with healthy living and trying to promote healthy living within the communities. Kintore is the second most remote Indigenous community within Australia. It's about 535 kilometres west of Alice Springs. So it took us about 7 hours to drive there, and it has a population of about 300 people. So I'd just like to tell you a little bit about our trip. While we were there, we had to spend some time with the children. We were in the classrooms with the kids, so basically what we did is we would help them to read, help them learn about keeping Kintore clean and healthy living and why it's important to eat healthy. It was a really, really surreal experience because, I mean, these children have just grown up with their life being about survival, and they're used to eating goanna, throwing the bones on the ground, and this just goes away. You know, now they have things like Cheetos and Passiona, and that just doesn't go away when you throw it on the ground, and they don't understand why. This community, these people are called the Pintupi people, and they speak Pintupi literature, and the people of Kintore first came out of the desert and saw white faces for the first time in 1963 and continued to come out of the desert. The last of their people came out in 1984. Now when you think about it, that's really not that long ago. I mean, I was born in 85, so there's people not much older than myself who spent their first infant years living in the desert and eating things like goanna and kangaroo when they can, going for days without being able to eat at all, because it just depends on what they get when they're hunting as well. So it was a really amazing experience. I mean, whether or not we made a real impact at this stage, I'd like to hope we did, but we'd probably find that we're not going to see a huge impact until, say, 40 years' time, when these children have actually grown up and become educators themselves. A few interesting things that happen. We talked to the kids about cleaning up. We cleaned up the whole school one morning, went around with the kids, tried to encourage them. They really respect Red Dust, so whenever you say you shouldn't do that or you pick up your rubbish, they really listen to you. And I was sitting down with one girl not long after we'd been cleaning up the school, and she opened up something and she put the rubbish on my lap, and I said to her, "Hey, where does that go?" And she said, "Bin." And I said, "Yeah, but who puts it there?" And she said, "White fella." So, I mean, it's so strange to think they still don't understand. You know, they still need to understand why it's important to put the rubbish in the bin and why it's important to eat healthy food. We also had some fantastic experiences with helping out with the swimming carnival, helping out with the kids learning to read, and helping with sports, so playing basketball and trying to encourage the kids to be active and healthy. We also got an opportunity to go goanna hunting with some of the elders. So there were 5 elder women and there were 5 of us, 4 of us from Circo and one Darren from Red Dust. We all went out into the middle of the desert, and the women just separated off and we just followed them and started looking for goanna tracks. And it was amazing to watch these women just scan the land without even really looking down. I mean, I was walking along, looking at every track I could see, going, "Yuyuwa," because Yuyuwa was the lady I was with. "Hey, Yuyuwa, is that goanna track?" And she looked at it and goes, "Yesterday." So she knew exactly when the goanna had been passed. And we got to a point where her feet were burning, so we sat down under a spinifex tree for a little bit, and I said to her, "Would you like my shoes?" She said, "No, can't walk in those." I said, "Okay, well, how about my socks?" And I took my shoes off and I showed her my socks, and she said, "Yes," and then just stuck her foot out in front of me, and I proceeded to put my socks on her feet. Then we got up and continued to walk, and she then said to me, "Kunka, fresh one." And she started poking a stick at the hole and gave me the shovel and said, "Kunka, dig." So then I started digging, couldn't find a goanna, covered in sweat, covered in dirt, in 40-degree heat in the red desert, digging to the point where I thought, wow, I can't see anyone right now. There are no cars, there are no people, it's just me and Yuyuwa, and I've dug a hole that could pretty much be my grave. And I have to say, a thought crossed my mind at some stage that I may not come back. But at that point, Yuyuwa just stood up and said, "Too deep," and walked away. And so I followed her again and continued to dig and try to look for goannas. Unfortunately, we were unsuccessful. Tom Palmer from Curtin actually did get a goanna, but unfortunately he didn't get to eat any of it because the ladies ate it before he could. But we did get to try some kangaroo tail. And we had a really amazing time. I really like to hope that we did make a difference to the community. I encourage those next people who go out there, just go in with an open mind, be prepared to have the kids just be all over you and just have a great time and just help out wherever you can. Something like this makes you really proud to work for Serco. It's a really humbling experience, and it just makes you very proud to know that our organisation helps out with things like this. So just wanted to tell you a little bit about my trip, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you. Also,